guys, it's Melinda. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. So I normally film wavy hair videos on my channel, but today I actually wanted to share my birth story. So if you don't know, I gave birth almost 4 months ago to my little baby girl, Rosie. Her name is Rose Evergreen Gray. So I just wanted to share my birth story because I don't want to forget any of the details of my birth, and I feel like I definitely could, and I just want to have like one video that I can look back on in case I want to like remember what happened. So like I said, my daughter's name is Rose Evergreen Gray. She was 7 pounds 2 ounces and 20.5 inches long, I believe. So my husband and I were actually planning a home birth. This was something that I really wanted to do for a long time. I just wanted a fully unmedicated birth at my house. That was where I felt the most comfortable and the safest, and I felt like I had a really good support team around me to be able to make that happen. Unfortunately, I was not able to do that, and I did end up transferring to the hospital. So I ended up with a hospital birth. But yeah, I'm gonna start from the beginning, but if this is something you're interested in, then just keep watching. Okay, so it all started about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks before I actually went into labor, when I lost my mucus plug. And I know a lot about labor and delivery just because I'm literally obsessed with watching birth vlogs. So I knew about a lot of the different signs. I love watching, I think her name is Bridget Taylor here on YouTube. She's a doula. So I really knew what I was looking for as far as like beginning signs of labor, and I knew that this was one of them. So I kind of started getting excited, and I was just kind of keeping an eye out for other signs. I had been having Braxton Hicks contractions since I think 26 weeks, I want to say, and then I didn't really have any other signs of labor for, like I said, about 2, maybe 1.5, 2 weeks. And then the week I gave birth, so I delivered on a Thursday, that Monday I actually had like a really weird sensation in the middle of the night, and I thought that my water had broken. So I felt like a little bit of a pop, and then what I thought was like a gush of liquid, and more like a trickle of liquid in my sleep. And so I actually woke up. This was at like 2 a.m. and I texted my doula and I told her what I was experiencing, and I was like, hey, I think maybe this could be my water, like I'm not really sure. And I didn't want to be one of those women, like everyone, when it's your first time having a baby, you kind of like freak out and you automatically think you're in labor with every little thing, and I didn't want to do that. But at the same time I was like, this could really be my water. And so I texted my doula, and we were just kind of chatting about it, and she was like, if you feel like it's your water, then maybe you should go ahead and give your midwife a call. And I was hesitant because I didn't want to call her for no reason, but just to be on the safe side, I went ahead and called my midwife, and she told me that it most likely that it potentially wasn't my water, but to definitely keep an eye on it and see if I was having any more symptoms. And so I ended up just going back to sleep. I woke up and I was chatting more with my doula during the day, and she reminded me that if my water had been broken for more than, I think, 18 hours without delivering my baby, I wasn't going to be able to have a home birth. If that number is incorrect, I'm sorry, but I'm just like, I'm doing a lot of this for memory. But there's like a time frame where, I don't know if this is all midwives, but my midwife wouldn't feel comfortable delivering at home anymore if it had been a certain amount of hours. So basically my doula was saying like it may be worth going into the hospital and just getting checked to see if my water had actually broken, since my goal was to have a home birth. So honestly, that kind of freaked me out because I had forgotten about that, and I was like, okay, yeah, I definitely need to go into the hospital. Like I want to get checked out because we need to know if this is like real labor or not. So I ended up going into the hospital that Monday, like I said. So I guess all that happened like early Monday morning, like 3 a.m. So that day I ended up going to the hospital. My water had not broken, which was a little disappointing, but I was 1 centimeter dilated, and then they said I was actually 40% effaced and -3, which is where the baby's head is at in your birth canal, I think. So yeah, that was actually my very first cervical check or exam or whatever you want to call it. My midwife had not checked me up until that point, so that was like kind of uncomfortable and actually painful, if I remember correctly. Like I did not enjoy that. But yeah, it was nice to kind of know where I was at mentally. So then the very next day, Tuesday, I had been kind of cramping off and on, and then Tuesday night, I'm pretty sure I like didn't get a lot of sleep. I was feeling very crampy. It was just kind of like mild period cramps, but enough to where it was keeping me up pretty much all night. And then all day Wednesday, same thing. I was just having cramping. So this was on December 8th. My due date was December 11th. So I still wasn't quite to my due date. And I know that as a first time mom, you're more likely to go past your due date. So I kind of was paying attention to these signs, but I was trying not to get too excited because I figured I'd probably pass my due date. Then Wednesday comes, I'm still feeling crampy, and then I start having bloody show like all day basically. And so I start like, this is kind of gross, but I start like sending pictures to my midwife, and I'm like, hey, just so you know, like this is going on. And she was like, okay, it's probably not bloody show, but like keep an eye on it. If it continues or increases, like keep me updated, and it could be bloody show. So I was like, okay, roger that. So I kept sending her pictures all day, and I'm like also talking with my doula and like my friends and my mom, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think this like really might be happening. So towards the end of the night, I think it's like 5 o'clock, and at this point the blood is like pretty heavy, and my midwife and I were like, okay, we're pretty sure this is bloody show. Like I think you're gonna go into labor very soon, which was super exciting to hear. So, and she was like, so this probably is the start of early labor. And then she told me to just kind of like not focus on it as much as I wanted to, but just to try to kind of ignore what I was experiencing for right now, because if you focus on it too much, you can either get like stressed and anxious, or it can just like slow things down. And early labor can take a really long time. It was Wednesday around like 5 o'clock, and my husband and I actually had church that night, and he plays guitar for the worship team. And I was like debating on whether or not I wanted to make him stay home with me, because I kind of thought it might be labor, but I also knew that it could take a while, and I didn't know if I really needed him to stay home with me, because I could have been in labor for another like 24 hours, you know? So it seems stupid to kind of like start canceling our plans so soon. But I'm glad that I did, because oh my gosh, it was real labor. So I ended up telling him like, hey, I really think you should stay home from church tonight, just in case, like worst case scenario, if this is real labor and you're gone, that would be terrible. So he stayed home with me. And so we get to about 7 o'clock, and I texted my midwife again, and I was like, hey, contractions have kind of like picked up a little bit. They're getting a little bit more intense, but like not too much has changed since the last time we talked. And she told me to get into this position that would help to kind of pull the baby out of the birth canal and then re-situate their head back into a more optimal position. So she told me to get into that position and hold it for an hour, and then to text her if anything changed. And she said that this position normally makes labor speed up a lot, and that things were probably going to start picking up really quickly. So I got excited, and I got into that position on the floor. And then this is where all the nerves set in, you guys. Like I really started freaking out, because the contractions started picking up about 30 minutes into me holding this position, and I kind of started panicking a little bit, and I was like, babe, I really think this is real labor. And so also, just rewind a little bit, Brian and I had actually had a cough, and I was sick for like a month and a half, maybe 2 months. So I actually wasn't able to go to several of my midwife appointments because I had like COVID symptoms, and she was trying to like keep her other patients safe or whatever. And so I hadn't been to a lot of my appointments, and so we were kind of behind on getting our house ready and getting all of our things ready that we needed to, because like our whole scheduling just got so thrown off with me getting sick. And so we still didn't even have everything we needed for our home birth, and like we didn't have everything together. It was a freaking mess. It was so chaotic. So anyways, I'm like in this position on the floor, kind of freaking out. Brian is like running around the house, getting all of our like birth kit together. He's bringing the pool up from the basement. We had to like boil water and like all of the stuff, you guys. It was chaos, and I was panicking. I'm just like in the room by myself, like in labor, with no one with me, and then Brian couldn't be with me because he was so busy getting stuff together, and I was like literally about to have a panic attack. And so I texted my doula and I was like, I think you need to come over. And at this point I still wasn't convinced that this was going to be the real thing, but she was like, if you want me there, like, this is what I'm here for. You guys, if I have one tip for you, get a doula. Whether you have a home birth or a hospital birth, get a doula. It's amazing. The biggest selling point for me with having a doula was just to have someone by my side 24/7. So if Brian needed to step away or if she needed to step away, someone could be getting stuff for me, but also I would still always have someone there supporting me, like, mentally and emotionally. So huge tip, get a freaking doula. So anyways, I texted her around 7:30 and I was like, I am panicking, I need you to come. And so she was like, okay, I'm on it, like, I'm gonna come. She got here within like 30 minutes or an hour or something, and immediately when she was here, just like, I was so relaxed and calm because again, I just had that like constant support with me, and also it felt nice having someone like a medical professional here that also had been through this before, because like Brian and I obviously have never done this before. We didn't really know what we were doing. So she just brought like so much peace and comfort to me. So Brian is still like running around the house like a crazy person, and he goes to fill up our birth pool, and the like hose is too short and it wouldn't attach to our kitchen sink. So we're like trying to figure out how to finagle it to fill up my birth pool. And we were like gonna try to duct tape it to the sink. Like, it was such a mess. Anyways, he ended up figuring it out and getting the birth pool filled up. My contractions were kind of like slowly building, getting closer together and getting a little bit more intense, but like nothing crazy. I was still like super calm. And then like, especially in between contractions, I was acting like totally normal, and my doula was doing counter pressure. So I spent most of the night like flipped around backwards on a chair and just kind of like laying on the table. That was the most comfortable position for me. And then she would do like hip squeezes, and that really helped a lot. And then Brian would do that. Then my midwife basically told me to call her and update her whenever we noticed a change. So she was really big on like not really like counting my contractions, but more so, and like trying to not focus on how long they lasted, how far apart they were, and just kind of relax and not pay attention to labor too much, just because again, early labor for a first-time mom can take a long time. So she just said to pay attention to whenever something shifted. So when contractions seemed like they were closer together or if they got more intense. Basically, she ended up coming over at around like 1 a.m. I think is when I called her, and I was like, okay, I'm having trouble talking through contractions. They're definitely getting more intense. I think you should go ahead and head over. So she got here around like 1 a.m.-ish. Let me double check that. So when my midwife got to the house, she listened to the baby's heartbeat, which sounded really good. She wanted to hear it through like several contractions, and she said everything was looking good and that like we're doing great, and she was just gonna kind of stand by and wait for another change basically. So she actually went out to her car to take a nap, and because she was like, sometimes having like people just standing around watching you can slow labor down because you feel pressured. So she's like, I'm gonna step out and you guys just keep doing what you're doing. Like, labor is progressing beautifully. You're doing great. So after about 2 more hours, I think, around like 3 a.m., she checked me. And I was at 3 centimeters dilated, so it was encouraging, but I was hoping that I was further along than that. But she also said that my cervix was swelling a little bit from the position, the leaning forward position that I was in, and she said that I really needed to like get up and switch positions. And so I actually moved to my bed and I started laboring on my side, and that was like the most painful thing ever. And I know they say like when it starts to hurt more, it's like it's a good thing because you're making more progress and you're getting closer. But like, oh my gosh, I could not handle it. The pain, it literally felt, I'm so sorry you guys, if you're scared of labor, don't listen to this next part, but like it felt like I was being stabbed in the stomach. And up until this point, the contractions were like very manageable, but this was so intense. And like I just kind of I don't know. It was just like, it hurt so bad in that position. So I went back to my chair just to kind of like calm down a little bit. So after I labored for a little bit longer in the chair, my midwife did another check. I think this was like 2 hours later, and she said that I was still at only 3 centimeters dilated. So at first she actually like thought I was at 5 centimeters, and she told me that, and so I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. She's like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry, you're only at a 3. I don't know what happened. I think like I was feeling it wrong. You guys, I literally don't know, but that was so discouraging. So not only did I like get my hopes up to think I was further along, but I literally had not progressed at all in 2 hours. So discouraging. So she was like, okay, I really think like you should try this sideline position again. We really got to do something different to like get you moving. So I did that. I was laying on my side, and again, it was just like unbearable pain. My whole body was tensing up. Like, I practiced all the meditation, all of the relaxation techniques, the breathing techniques, and I just felt like I could only stay calm for like maybe like 1 contraction out of like 10, and then the other ones I was just totally like clenching up and like bracing myself for the pain, and I just could not make my body relax. And then I just remember there were like 2 contractions back to back where I really started to feel panicky, and like I was just gonna freak out, and I was on the verge of an anxiety attack. And I told Brian, I was like, babe, I do not know if I can do this anymore. Like, for real, this is freaking me out. I don't know what to do. And so everyone kind of came in the room, and we were all talking about my options. And basically my midwife said, like, you are exhausted. You haven't slept in like 48 hours. So that is probably why labor is slowing down, because your body's just too tired. And she told me, she was like, you have 2 options. You can either take some, what was it, like Benadryl? I don't know, some like baby Benadryl or something like that, or Tylenol. Which one makes you sleepy? I can't remember, but she was like, you can either take some of that and try to like get some sleep, or you can go to the hospital and get an epidural. Because I was saying, I was like, I need an epidural. This is not okay. Get me the frick out of here. And she was like, okay, hold on, like, remember what you wanted. And then she like gave me that option, said, or you can go to the hospital. And I was like, no, frick that. I want to go to the hospital. Like, this is awful. And in the moment though, I was like, I'm gonna be so disappointed in myself, but I felt like I had no other option. And I was like, I do not know how I can physically stand any more pain. And I was like, I just don't want to be disappointed. And my midwife was like, she was like, I understand that, but this has to get a lot more intense in order for you to deliver this baby. Like, you're only at 3 centimeters. It has to build for you to actually like get to transition, and then like transition is gonna be hard. She's like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like, this has to get harder for you to actually like deliver this baby. And I was like, oh, okay, freaking, I'm done then. Like, if it has to get worse than this, I cannot do it. So, and she was like, there's no shame in going to the hospital. If you feel like this is the best decision for you, then like that's what you need to do. And everyone was seriously so supportive and encouraging. And so we ended up like frantically running around and packing a hospital bag last minute, because that was one of the things that I didn't get to on my list, because again, I was sick and like I just couldn't do anything. I also pulled a muscle in my rib cage from coughing so much, and so I could like barely even breathe or do anything. It was a nightmare. And I was so scared of pushing and like being able to breathe through contractions because of my pulled rib muscle, but that's a whole other story. It ended up being fine, by the way. But yeah, so everyone's like running around my house trying to get stuff together, trying to get like a hospital bag together. Meanwhile, I'm screaming like counter pressure, and people are like either the nurse that my midwife had, or my midwife was giving me counter pressure, or my doula was giving me counter pressure, or Brian. Like, we were just running around like crazy trying to give me counter pressure in the meantime. And so we were just like freaking out. And then my midwife was calling the hospital, asking like who needed to transfer with me, because at the time they still had some COVID restrictions, so I could only bring 2 people, my husband and then 1 other person. So either my midwife or my doula could come, but not both. And it actually turned out that my midwife had another client in labor, and so she was saying that it would be better if my doula came with me. Which ended up being amazing and perfect, and it all worked out. But so we get in the car, head to the hospital at like 5 a.m. in the morning. Like, no one was on the road. It was so quiet. and like, oh my gosh, contractions in the car are just as bad as everyone says they are. I think I had 1, maybe 2 contractions in the car because we're only 5 minutes from the hospital. And so we get in there and they put me in a wheelchair. They roll me up to the labor and delivery floor, and first I'm in triage, and they got me out of there pretty quick, but oh my goodness, you guys. So they had to put an IV on me, and I knew that my mom had said that they're really painful in your hand. So I asked if they could do it somewhere else, and they said they could do it like right here in my arm. But I don't know if the nurse that was doing it was like new or what was going on, but she did something wrong and it swelled up so big and hurt so bad. So then she had to pull that out, and then it ended up still going in my hand, which also hurt really bad. And then all the while I'm still having really bad contractions, and I'm like, just freaking finish, lady. Like, I was so pissed off. And so then they finally get me to like sign all these papers and everything for the epidural. They get me in my room, like I said, only after like 15 minutes, thank goodness. And then they asked if I wanted, I think it's fentanyl, and I said, frick yes, give me everything. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so they gave me that to kind of like just dull the pain a little bit until they could get the guy up there to do the epidural. That guy was amazing. I didn't feel a freaking thing. And they said it was a really good epidural because like my legs weren't completely numb. Like I could still feel them and move them, but like all the pain was so dull. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is gonna be the longest video ever. Holy crap. I mean, I'm also trying to tell a story that literally took like 22 hours in like 15 minutes, so obviously that's not gonna happen. But anyways, so yeah, I got my epidural, and then I was living the good life, let me tell ya. I literally was on cloud 9, and I was so happy. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I love epidurals. Why was I not here from the beginning? And I loved it. No regrets. I'm so glad I got the epidural. It did suck though because Brian, my husband, he actually was like not feeling well. I think from just like staying up all night and not eating and just like all the stress and chaos of the night, he got like a really bad headache and like a migraine, and then was feeling super nauseous. So he was like sick on the couch for most of the time, which was like really pitiful, and I felt bad, but I was also bummed because like I wanted us to like enjoy this experience together. But I was really thankful that I had my doula because like he was kind of like asleep the entire time, not the entire time, but for a lot of stuff. So she was still there to like help me. So when I got to the hospital, I was at 5 centimeters dilated, and then they waited 4 hours to check me again, and I was only at 6 centimeters. So they asked if I wanted them to break my water. I said yes. So they broke my water, and then they came back. Well, and then they were gonna come back after another 4 hours. So it started getting close to that 4-hour mark, and I told my doula that like I felt like the contractions were starting to get a little more intense, and I was feeling a lot more pressure. No pain at all though. Like the epidural literally like blanked out all the pain. It literally was just pressure, but I could also tell that they were getting closer together. So I had them go pull my nurse and my doctor, and they came back in, and when they checked me, they said I was at 10 centimeters and ready to push. So then like I was so excited, but as soon as they left the room, I just started crying, and I was like, babe, this just got so real. Like, we're literally about to meet our baby soon. Little did I know I'd be pushing for 3 hours, but that's fine. But yeah, I was so excited. So for some of the different pushing techniques that we used, like we got this bar, and I just like, they had to like lift me up and put me on the bar, and then I would like bear down with all of my weight. That wore me out though. Like I literally fell asleep for like 45 minutes after that because it was so exhausting trying to hold my whole body weight up, because like you don't have any strength in your legs when you have an epidural. So anyways, we tried a few different pushing positions like on my side, and then we ended up having to like roll back and forth because like Rosie's heart rate would go down a little bit and it would kind of dip, and so we just had to like move me around a little bit. But 2 hours in though, they were just like, all of the people working with me were so sweet and encouraging, but they're like, come on, you're almost there, you're almost there, like you're so close with every single push. And I started feeling like they were lying to me, and I'm like, I'm never gonna get this baby out. Like, am I really this close and I can't do it? Like, no joke, you guys, I was convinced I was never gonna gonna be able to deliver this baby because I was pushing as hard as I could and it, like, she still wasn't here yet. Okay, sorry, my camera battery died. So really quickly, I'm just gonna finish this up. So yeah, I was pushing for what felt like forever, and I'm not kidding you guys, I was convinced that I was not going to be able to push this baby out. I even asked him at one point, I was like, am I going to be able to push her out with like how hard I'm pushing right now? Because I was pushing as hard as I possibly could and I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. So they actually gave me, well, first of all, they told me, yes, of course, you're going to be able to push your baby out. But they ended up putting the mirror in front of me so that I could see how much progress I was making. And then Brian was like, babe, I can literally see her head. And I was like, what the frick? So that was really encouraging, and like pushing with the mirror right there, oh my gosh, that was like game changing. But yeah, so I pushed for 3 hours, and then finally, like towards the end, like my last couple of pushes, they were like, okay, do you want to take a break now? I was like, no, I want to keep pushing. And yeah, because I was just so over that point. I was like exhausted and ready to be done, to be honest. And so I kept pushing, and then out popped my little bean. So that was like, it was really crazy. And then, oh, I remember I coughed and my stomach literally felt like jello. It was so gross, just having like an empty stomach after obviously being pregnant for so long. And then I remember they asked me if I wanted Pitocin to help my uterus to like contract or like shrink back up or whatever. Not contract, I don't think, but like to shrink back. And I said no because Brian and I were still trying to do this like with as minimal intervention as possible. And so I just didn't want to do that. So they were like, okay, well, we're going to have to like massage your stomach then, which is not a massage. They basically like are pushing down on your stomach to make your uterus to shrink back. And that hurt so bad. And honestly, I was a little bit annoyed because I was like, I just wanted to sit and hold my baby and enjoy her, and they were like causing me so much more pain. I'm like, I just went through all of this, like, can you give me 5 seconds to look at my little baby? But it was fine. I know they're just doing their job. So yeah, they were doing that, and then we asked if we could do delayed cord clamping, and like as soon as my doula mentioned that, everyone in the room like froze, because at this hospital in particular, I guess they aren't like big on that, and everyone was just kind of like waiting for the doctor's response. And he was like, well, you know, like the baby is getting its oxygen like from the air now. You don't really need the umbilical cord. And I was like, I know, like, but I still like, can we just do delayed cord clamping? Because oxygen is not the reason for delayed cord clamping. Look into it if you're like curious, but anyways, it has some good benefits. So that's something we wanted to do, and they're like, okay, yeah. So they did wait a little bit, which was really nice. And then Brian cut the cord, and then my doctor started checking to see if I had any tears, and I was kind of starting to freak out a little bit. One, because his face while he was checking, he looked very concerned, and he was like talking to one of the nurses, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's bad. It's freaking bad. I'm like never the same, you know? And I was like really freaking out. And also I felt like my epidural was starting to wear off, and I was like 2 seconds away from asking him, if we have to do stitches, can I get more medicine? Because like I'm gonna freaking feel it. And then he was like, oh, you didn't tear. And I was like, what? Excuse me? I didn't tear? Are you being serious? And he was like, yeah, you didn't tear. And I was like, wow, Jesus, thank you. Oh, I think Rosie's awake. I gotta go get her. But yeah, so that was amazing. I didn't tear, which I think probably really helped with my quick recovery. And yeah, so that is my birth story. I don't think I'm leaving anything out, but yeah, I had an amazing labor. I will say, like, I was very against going to the hospital. It was just not what I wanted to do. Like, my dream was a home birth, to just like be in my bed and be at home already, not have to like transfer back home and like, you know, do all the stuff. I just wanted to be like in my own little happy place. But if I had to have a hospital birth, the way it all panned out was absolutely perfect, and honestly I would not change any of it for the world. And now that I've given birth, I'm like freaking epidurals all the way, because that was amazing. And someone asked me, they're like, so for your next birth, will you just like plan a hospital birth? And honestly, I think I will, just because the thought of pushing a head out of my body without an epidural sounds literally terrifying. Sorry, am I like freaking people out? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to freak you out, but I really loved my epidural and it helped a lot. And yeah, that is my birth story. If you guys have any questions, definitely let me know. I hope I didn't leave anything out. I was trying to just like roughly do this from memory really quick while my baby was napping, and I think I covered everything though. So if you guys want more like baby, postpartum, mom life content, definitely let me know. I also have footage from my birth. I like vlogged the whole thing, so I'm kind of considering posting that, but I'm not 100% sure about it yet. I'm kind of sitting on it. We'll see how I feel. But yeah, if you guys want me to do a video on like postpartum recovery, because oh my gosh, the things I found out about my body during postpartum like probably don't belong on the internet, but like if you guys want to know, let me know, because it's alarming. Anyways, that completes this video, you guys. I guess I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know, but yeah, that is the story of my birth. Well, not my birth, Rosie's birth, but yeah, now I have the cutest bean in the world, and she's almost 4 months old, and I already have baby fever again, so that's not good. But okay, that's the end of the video. Bye guys.